The reason why I stand with Palestine is very, very simple. It's mainly because our tax dollars are being used to oppress another people. Our tax dollars is being used to go after another people. And my thing with that is that there are needs, wants, and desires and issues we have to fix right here. So we are sending our tax dollars over to another country to oppress another people. And I take issue with that. I take issue with the idea that it's okay for America to side with Israel, knowing the history of that conflict, knowing fully that Israel was placed on Palestinian land. I have an issue with this country taking sides in that issue. I have an issue when you see lies being perpetuated. Things like, oh, it's been thousands and thousands of years of conflict, to paint this idea that these people are just barbaric, to paint this idea that these people are just bloodthirsty, that they just want war. You're painting this idea, which is not true. Why? And my thing is that this country is sitting here ignoring what Israel's doing right now to the Palestinians. They're ignoring it. You cut off food, water supplies, medical supplies. You've threatened to, strike trucks coming in and out of the in and out of Egypt. What is that? What would we usually call that? I know what I would call it. But suddenly when it comes to Israel, it doesn't matter. Suddenly Israel is special. Suddenly Israel can't commit the same crimes that they complain are being committed against them. And it gets to the point where people don't mention all the bombings and all the attacks that Israel has perpetuated for years and years and years and years and years. The only thing that people mention or even respond to is how someone responds to that. Do you think that a bunch of people would just start paragliding, coming in, land, air, and sea for nothing? They would just target a peaceful people like that? In the modern day, do you think that in most cases people go through those kind of lengths because the other side was so peaceful? Do you really think that? Because I don't. I think that Israel, and I think it's been relatively shown that Israel starts a lot of conflicts. And that whenever someone responds, your response is what's being measured. Conflicts. Your response is what's being measured. That reminds me of something. It sounds very similar to the treatment of other folks, though I'm not going to make a comparison to that because to me, there is no comparison. It's the greatest crime in human history, in my opinion. But this idea that we should sit here and tolerate our tax dollars being sent over to another country. This idea that we should just stand idly by and say nothing as our tax dollars is assisting Israel in committing mass crimes as we speak against women and children. See, that's where I start to ask questions. Why am I not allowed to question that? I'm allowed to question my government. I'm allowed to question my local government. I'm allowed to question my police force. I'm allowed to question the judges. I'm allowed to question politicians. But suddenly I can't question the people that my money goes to? Why is that? Why is it that Israel is such a sacred cow that you can't even talk about them? Or when you talk about them, you got to be really, really careful. That is a foreign country. I can talk about my government in ways that I can't even talk about freaking Israel. Make it make sense. How is it that I can hold up signs disparaging police officers in front of right in front of a police station, and that is completely legal, and it should be legal. But suddenly, when it comes to Israel, I can't even criticize them without being ist or suffer or I suffer from some kind of ism. Why is that? Why is it that when the Palestinians were complaining about how Israel was systematically cutting off water, cutting off lights, systematically moving more and more Israelis into their territory without permission, without any justification, without any right to do so? Why is it that when they brought that up, those complaints were largely ignored? But the first time a Palestinian so much as even looks at an Israeli wrong, we got an international incident. And I'm not saying that the current incident is anywhere comparable, but I've noticed that throughout the years. So see, when you're used to people violating your rights constantly, right? And you're used to people doing that all the time, and you're never given a fair shake anyways, why would you care about how you look? Because you know what's going to happen. If let's say that Israeli soldiers went into Palestine and did the exact same thing, and they have, right? What do you think the international response is going to be? Is it going to be would America suddenly start giving weapons to Gaza? Would the British come in and start drone striking, those particular countries who were involved? Would that happen then? No. We would turn a blind eye. We would turn a blind eye and we wouldn't care. And the main reason is that we interpret Israel as mostly Jewish, and a lot of white Jewish people here want to keep up the facade. I'm going to say it just like that, and I won't go any further. They want to keep up the facade. See, you won't ever see this country pour that kind of money into anything. And I mean anything. And it's not a racial reason. Think about how much money we spent on drone striking people, right? Think about that. Think about how much money you've seen us spend on drone striking people. Have we spent that kind of money doing that against white countries? I'm going to ask you that again. Think about how much money we spent on drone strikes. When's the last time you see us do that for a white country? I mean, we helped out Ukraine against Russia, but because Ukraine has certain beliefs. Go to YouTube, type in BBC, Ukraine, and a certain word that rhymes with Yahtzee. You'll see reports from 10 years ago about all the German ideology worshiping folks in Ukraine. Okay. See, that's why we're helping them, because it's not it's not just that people are having low birth rates. It's also that you got to bring people here who have certain ideologies that matches the dominant white society. So, and aside from that, the only reason why we're helping Ukraine is because they're white. You want to know how I know that, how I can prove that, how I can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt? Look at what's happening in Haiti. Right? We contributed to what happened in Haiti. We all know this. Our CIA pushed illegal substances into that country. We trained their gangs. Our Marine Corps did that. I'm a veteran and I will fully admit it. Our military trained some of those gangs. Right? Our military trained some of those gangs. And everybody knows it. You had John Kerry. John Kerry, a while back, came out and said he's very concerned about how the CIA has been undercover and pushing illegal stuff into Haiti for years. John Kerry said that. You had U.S. politicians come out and say that. Just openly admit to it. You have declassified documents you can go on the internet and see for yourself right now. Joe Biden, he's quoted as saying that if Haiti sunk into the ocean, it wouldn't matter all that much to U.S. interests. He said that. He's on the record. He's on video saying that. He said it. And that shows you that right around that time, you had the conflict in Bosnia at the same time. And Joe Biden was asked, why does it seem like the U.S. cares more about Bosnia, right, than what's going on in Haiti? And people and when Joe Biden was sitting down, the actual reporter even referenced the race issue. They even referenced it. They even said, wait, hold on. Some have said that the only reason why the U.S. is helping Bosnia is because they're white, and the only reason why the U.S. is condemning Haiti and not helping Haiti is because Haiti is black. Even though if you look at it on a map, Haiti is closer. Haiti is our neighbor. You would think we would care more about Haiti than Bosnia or freaking Ukraine or Israel. But we allow our neighbors to freaking fall by the wayside. Not only do we allow them to fall by the wayside, we actively contribute to their downfall. We send our undercover agents, our CIA, FBI, intelligence agencies to go into these black countries, to go into these brown countries and destabilize them. Right? See, what this shows you is how the world thinks about people who ain't white. See, do you remember when the Ukraine conflict first happened and you had that one white woman reporter, she was saying, this isn't some third world country, this is Europe. The way she said that, it shows you a lot, right? When have you ever seen the U.S. spend this kind of money defending anything? And it was to the benefit of people who were normally marginalized. You see the U.S. spend this kind of money on our military to go drone strike black and brown countries. You see the U.S. spend a lot of money on police officers to go and brutalize black people in particular, but they brutalize all American citizens. Let's keep it about, but especially black people. You see them pour a lot of money into some of the intelligence agencies who engage in these COINTELPRO programs to destabilize social justice movements. You see all that kind of money spent, and at no point does it come to the benefit, right, of justice. At no point. At no point. At no point. Whenever we start spending billions, you can almost be assured it's almost never going to be to our benefit. Especially if that money goes out abroad. People are like, oh, we're protecting American interests. American interests basically translates to who we can manipulate. I mean, look at the African continent, right? Right. So Saudi Arabia has anti-LGBT laws. A good bit of these countries who have a lot of these white passing people, a lot of these people who have a lot of money, who won't let you bully them like many countries in the African continent will. Notice they have very, very similar laws to what you see in the African continent against the LGBT people. And I'm not saying those laws are right, but if you do business with Saudi Arabia, who have laws that are more oppressive than what many African countries have, and then you demand that African countries either change their laws, right, or you won't do business with them, you'll even throw sanctions on them, well, then that shows me something. I can take that and look at Israel and say, wait a minute. You're giving Israel all this money. Why aren't you giving it to the Palestinians? What is the difference between the Palestinians and Israel? The Palestinians have been there for longer. Israel, in terms of the world stage, it's a recent thing. I'm going to say that for you again. For those of you who are in the back, I'm going to say it again. Israel in terms of the world stage, in terms of world history, in terms of the history of countries, is a recent thing. The Palestinians, people who have their grandfathers, great grandfathers, great great grandfathers, great 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 grandfathers, they've been on those lands. They've been on those lands. And so that's the history of this conflict. You got people moving a bunch of people from Israel onto Palestinian land. And those people are saying, hey, that's not cool. And you got Native Americans in this country who can totally relate, because Native Americans said the exact same thing. Hey, that's not cool. You got Mexicans here who could totally relate, because the same thing happened to them. Not cool. Black folks, the same thing. Not cool. So it's very interesting how on one end this country is supporting Ukraine, knowing fully well you got a bunch of people like the Azov battalion who are worshipers of certain ideologies that come out of Germany. And on the flip side, you got Israel with Benjamin Netanyahu, who is threatening to strike any vehicle bringing supplies from Egypt or Jordan to come help the Palestinians, medical supplies. He's threatening that. Do you understand? That's what you do to snuff out things you want to hunt. Say you got a particular thing that you want to hunt and you don't want to chase it down. Well, you would close off the area, deny any resources, and eventually they got to come out. These people are treating Palestinians, human beings, like animals. Like animals. And when Israel does stuff like this, you didn't wonder why you are surrounded by enemies. A wise man once said that if you're going to hunt a wolf to protect your village, then don't start a fire and burn down your village. Do you understand what that wise man was saying? If you're claiming to go after somebody who's bad, right, and you burn down the village in your pursuit of doing that, then eventually you become the wolf. I'm gonna say it for you again for people out there who might be a little bit, not as adept with words. A wise man once said that if you are hunting a wolf to protect your village, and in the process of you hunting that wolf, you burn down the village, then you are a bigger problem than the wolf you are claiming to be hunting. I don't think Palestinians are wolves, but I'm using that adage because it makes sense. Israel threw the first punch. Israel threw the first punch. You moved a bunch of people onto Palestinian land. Those people said, we don't want you on our land. We want to keep our land the way it is. The same way as people around the world told people who were colonizers, we don't want you on our lands. We want to keep our lands to ourselves. And what did you do? You didn't listen. You moved a bunch of Palestinians. You moved a bunch of Israelis into Palestinian land. Okay, that is in history books. It's a fact. It's not something that we can just sit here and just go back and forth and debate over. No, that is the truth. On this particular broadcast, we will speak truth to power, or we don't speak at all. Truth to power. Truth to power. Right? We're not going to sit here and just allow people to lie and justify what's going on over there. Because right now, you have people out here who are suffering, right? The British come in and they essentially gave away their country, right? Gave away their country. Could you imagine that for a second? It was a very, very similar thing to what happened in the U.S. You had Mexican people who had their land taken. All these places with all these Mexican sounding names, a lot of that was Mexico. And then you had the U.S. giving away some of the land to white folks. You had black people who had land all over the country. All over the country. I mean, I think next to white people, black people were historically in this country at one point the second largest landowners with the most successful businesses. Right? And then what happens is all those lands were taken either by violence, by the Klan, or by banks coming in doing underhand deals, or people would come in with local legislation and say, oh, black people can't live here, like in Oregon, for example. Do you know at one point black people were actually banned from Oregon? Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Look it up. Look it up. And you'll find that people will take your land, and then when you try to reclaim your land, you're then made to be the enemy. I think a lot of Native Americans could totally relate to that. I just call me crazy, but if you go down to Oklahoma and you go there, walk up at any random Native American says, "Hey, can you tell me the history of your can you tell me the history of your people?" I guarantee you, what's going to happen in the vast majority of those cases is going to be, well, you know. And then the white man came. That is a very common line. Because, you know, you go ask anybody who ain't white, what happened to your people? The usual line is going to be, and then the white man came. It don't matter what the history of your people are. You could have went to space and came back. You could have been a part of the freaking Avengers. You could have been at freaking New Asgard with freaking Loki and freaking Thor, okay? The end result of all those stories is going to be, and then the white man came. And that's the problem with Palestine. Because the British and the West, they move Israelis into Palestinian land. Right? Yes. Yes. Mr. Gray, I am saying absolutely. In terms of freaking Israel and Palestine, yes. A lot of these conflicts that are happening around the world are happening because white people in the past took people's land, renamed their land to something that is not a native language, and then in some cases stayed on the land or sold off their land. Yeah. Or you move people onto the land that is not from there. Right? So, we're talking about the freaking 1940s. The 1940s. That's wild. You're going to sit here and paint these people as the villains when the truth is they are simply fighting for their birthright. They should fight back. Are you crazy? They should fight back. Excuse me. You didn't pay me for that land. You didn't compensate me for that land. Usually when you got land, right, and somebody wants it, a transaction occurs. That's how that works, right? I mean, just call me crazy. But usually there's a transaction, right? Usually. And the transaction is you compensate me for the land that you want. And anyone who comes in here saying, oh, it was Israel before Palestine, I'm going to ban you from this particular chat. You're not going to be able to lie here. You're not going to be able to lie here. No. Because I consider that similar to, it's just insensitive. Because not only is it insensitive, it's also a lie. It's also a lie. And I don't particularly care how many people try to flood in here saying the same thing. The thing about it is that I have a thing about me, right? Whereas I like to have discussions about the truth and not your feelings around it. So I don't care how much you love the Bible, right? I don't care how much you love Israel. I don't care how much you love conflict. I don't care how much you don't like the Palestinians. You won't lie here. So if you feel the need to lie on people who are currently suffering as we speak, then I suggest you go and get help immediately. And not just that, but keep in mind, that your tax dollars is being used to fund all this stuff. So no matter what your opinion is, no matter who wins or loses, your tax dollars is paying for all that blood. And the fact that some of you are comfortable with that is disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself. You complain about cities being in ruin. Oh, the cities, the rising crime rate, and just lying about it, you know. Rising crime rates. And yet you have no problem sending your tax dollars to other countries to go cause crimes against humanity. Let me say that again. You got people who complain about shootings in Chicago. Oh, violence, and it's largely made up. There's no rising crime because the only way you can say that, right? The only way you can say that is if you're saying video games are violent. Because again, one of the biggest defenses, one of the biggest defenses of video games is that there's not been a sharp rise in crime, right? That's been one of the biggest defenses, right? So the only way you can say there's a rising crime rate is if you're also saying video games cause violence as a correlation. If not, shut the hell up. You keep saying, oh, it's violence, right? You say that in Chicago. You say that in freaking Seattle. You say that in freaking Philadelphia, in freaking LA, right? You say that. But then you have no problems with sending your money over to another country to go cause war crimes. And someone asked me about Ukraine. I don't care about Ukraine. Why in the hell are we funding them? Why? We're only funding Ukraine because they're white. And we're only funding Israel because we perceive them to be mostly white Jewish people. That's it. That's it. That's it. We didn't help Haiti. We kicked out the Haitians. We kicked out Haitians while also inviting white Ukrainians. Last year in 2022, Joe Biden reached a milestone by deporting the 20,000th Haitian. Last year. Joe Biden, last year in 2022, deported the 20,000th Haitian. But we're bringing in people from Ukraine. Well, they're coming from a war-torn country. Haiti is being controlled by gangs right now. And not only that, Haiti is closer. So why would you not bring Haitians over versus Ukrainians when we know there are Haitians who work remotely in the U.S.? They actually live in Haiti, but they work online for firms who are in the freaking U.S. Because many Haitians speak English. A lot of them do. In fact, I bet a good chunk of them do. More English than what you'll find in freaking Ukraine. And my thing is, given the proximity of the U.S. to Haiti, why in the world would we not bring in Haitians over Ukrainians? Why? What that shows me is a lot of these issues are being precipitated and being judged based off of race or perceived race of the people. Right? That's what it shows me. Because if we suddenly cared about people in freaking need who's being attacked, then what were we doing Darfur? Rwanda? Oh, well, that was an internal conflict. Oh, well, some would say Ukraine was also too. Someone would also say Taiwan is also too. You know, some would say that when when Germany rose up, right, and they were going after European countries, that was a European problem, right? But we got involved because the Jewish people were involved. See, when it's happening to Muslims, we don't help Muslims. See, what do we do to Muslims? We invade their countries. We drone strike them. See, that's that is what shows you how we feel for one country over another, based solely on skin color. Based solely on skin color. I want you to understand that, right? Because you look at Palestine, right? Palestine is a melting pot, more so than Israel. See, Israel is mostly Jewish. Palestine, you could say, is a lot of Muslims, but there's Palestinian Christians, there's Palestinian Jews, there's Palestinian atheists, Palestinian agnostics. That's the one thing about Palestine. You find a bunch of people. Same with Israel, but especially in Palestine, right? So you start to see how people start to break down based on what they perceive about people's skin color, their background, and their allegiance to whiteness. See, sometimes the white power structure, they'll help you if you have an allegiance to whiteness, or you're seen as the model citizen. Like, for example, with Asian people. Now, not every Asian person gets treated well. We all know that. But there are some people, right? There are some people who have this belief system of being the model minority, right? So that's what you see from certain communities. And so you'll see the white power structure give them a cookie every now and then, but they understand their place. With Israel, you see a lot of these white people who are Jewish, who happen to be some of the biggest anti-black racists out there. You see it all the time. It is not a secret. It's open. In fact, you look at some of the biggest anti-black racists in the past, go look it up for yourself. Go look it up for yourself. You know, it is very, very, very obvious. Very, very obvious. Some of the reasons why we feel the way we feel about Palestine. Right? It's also very, very obvious the reason why we feel the way we feel about Israel. I think we all know. And the one thing I want to leave you with is, if Israel has so many enemies, if you are the one woman in the relationship and every man you met is a bad man, I mean, literally every man that you met is a bad man. Every man. All of them. Eventually it gets to the point where you the problem.